Hello, everybody. I'm Kipp Snow, Director of the Transportation Distribution Logistics Institute at the Community College of Baltimore County.
Hey, everyone. Mike Singer, Community Manager, Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. Welcome to Shipwatchers Podcast, episode 37. Wow, it's like 3/4 of a year or something. I haven't had my math. Haven't had my coffee. I can't do math. Oh, my God. How long have I been up? Good Lord.
Oh, good morning, everybody.
That's great.
That's the way to...
Don't edit that out, man.
Yeah,
Don't edit
that's
that
the way
out.
to start it out.
There you go. So, hey, if you're watching this, give us a like, subscribe, hit the bell to be alerted to new podcasts as they come available. Share with your friends, people, social media, Facebook, anybody you think might be interested in ship, support, transportation, anything that we cover today.
And if you've listened, and you please give us some feedback on what's working, what's not working. We're constantly trying to find, what's happening in the port and, try to communicate that out to, the general public who may have some interest in these things and do, share that information. But if there's information that you're wanting to know more about, or
yes,
maybe there's some other information, leave some comments in the comment fields in the broadcasts, so that we can go and do some research and try to figure some of this stuff out and
suggestions, right?
And provide more information. So,
or email Mike, your podcast really sucks at BaltimoreShipwatchers.com. No,
that's right. That's not a real email address, but yes.
When they're really upset and then they get all these error messages and then
the kickback could not be delivered.
Yeah, it's Mike at BaltimoreShipwatchers.com.
So we are interested in
yes.
what people have to say about it. See if we can't improve this and make it better. So
yeah, absolutely. And we haven't received much of that. So yeah, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. All right, why don't we get ahead and get into our shipping update?
Yeah, sounds good. So, as we do, we track the average daily truck transactions at Dundalk Marine Terminal. This is data that's supplied by the state. So 4 weeks ago, 3,428 per day. 3 weeks ago, we had a brain skip and we don't have data.
Yeah, I'm working on that one.
Well, in another 3 weeks, it won't matter because it'll be off the list.
Well,
2 weeks ago, 3,372 per day. And then last week, this was a little surprising, 3,184. One day was 2,414.
Wow.
So, I've been doing this for 7 years and I'm still learning and I know a lot more than I did. And we're doing this podcast. We're going on, this is episode 37 and still like these little teeny things that I would love to know, gee, what happened that day? Hey,
wasn't there weather?
More things to learn.
Was this the week the week that had the weather in the closures?
Maybe that's it. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, maybe that was it. It was snow. All right, see?
Yeah, so that's going to explain why there was a dip in the number. There's another storm coming this week, so I would imagine that there's probably going to be fluctuations in that also.
Right. Yeah, we'll look at next week, whatever Wednesday or Thursday, because my wife was talking about that. There's some weather coming, and then I saw somebody's model graphic that showed heavy snow midday on Thursday, and I'm like, oh, I thought they were saying, it was gonna be like Wednesday into Thursday, and I expected it to be waning by Thursday afternoon, and I'm like, wow, heavy snow middle of the day on Thursday.
Yeah,
well, it's all pie in the sky, a bunch of because it's 4 or 5 days out, right? So,
right. Exactly. Yeah. And I've seen some that are, light dusting or, it's going to be a brush. And then there's like the, a 5 mile strip that's going to get 2 foot of snow. And I'm like, okay, that can go. That's fine. I'm not going to guess on that one. So, but I mean, I have seen the terminal schedules, and when there are weather related events, and especially like Monday coming up is President's Day, and there's some closures related to that. All of those types of disruptions are going to impact the metrics and the flow of products. So it's, just because, if I look at this, I'm going to, I'm going to go ask those questions of, just kind of like what we're doing now and go, well, what happened? Well, why? Well, it snowed. There's not much we can do about it. You got to plow, you get things plowed out. There's going to be, disruptions based on that. And, terminal managers and the, trucking industry, they all both have to figure out, how to move these containers around those weather related events and still be safe. And, that kind of, so there are challenges. So we had some Evergreen ships in the port this week.
Yes. Let me grab a picture here. Yeah. So I thought this was pretty cool. Typically we only get one of these large ships into port at a time. So to now, right after an hour after this picture, one of these left. But it was interesting to see both of them side by side. Now these are qualified as still the largest ships to come to Baltimore. So 14,424 TEUs a piece. This is the Evergreen T-class. There's 20 ships in this class. We've probably had 10 of them visit here regularly for as long as I've been tracking it. These are 369 by 51 meters. So is it 1,250 feet long? 155 feet wide, something like that. So they're big ships.
They are. When these T-class ships come in, and when I leave, if they're at the dock when I'm leaving work, 5:00 end of the day, coming out of the Dundalk campus at CCBC, you can see the tops of these ships and the cranes from the tree line in the wintertime because all the leaves fall out. You can
from the college.
And usually in the afternoon there's a sunset hitting it. So if you can time it right, the sun coming over the top of the container ship and the cranes, and it's got a kind of a cool image to see. But
well, now you have an assignment.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple. The pictures aren't the best, but I'll work on that. But yeah, maybe next episode I'll pull one of them up so you can take a look at it.
There we go. So this was like pre-dawn, and here's another. Once things lightened up a bit. Yeah. So yeah, kind of cool to see those two. In town at the same time. So look at, and this is interesting. Can you see how the one ship is significantly higher than the other?
Yeah. Lighter. So you got some other pictures here with some ships that were in port. When was the last time you saw one of the largest container ships at Dundalk Marine Terminal? What? Dundalk Marine Terminal?
Right. So I really don't have a photo of that, but here's a screenshot from Marine Traffic and where they put this monster.
Wow.
Right?
So let's not get worked up. We're not turning Dundalk into a full container terminal.
No, and I don't know if there are any cranes over there on that side anyway.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think so. I think they're all on the what is that?
And we can see them over
side.
here.
Yeah, you can see them there. But I don't even think that those cranes would be able to service it. It's too big.
Right. That's probably true. Yes.
So it must have been there for waiting or servicing or timing or something.
Yeah, and I Facebooked some tugboat captains and said, hey, do you guys know what's going on? And supposedly it wasn't ready to leave. And they needed to get it out of the way, which is interesting. So I'm
surprised that
sure
they
they
put.
all communicate, right? And
Sure.
then what I think we lose sight of is, if you're watching, like on the live stream camera, and there's always, not always, but every once in a while there'll be a question. Oh, well, why is this happening, or why did they do that? People are really curious. I'm curious, and then you've got to remind yourself there's a pilot on board, right? They're not doing anything unless the
Yeah.
pilot okays it or tells them to do it, right? So it's not some random ship coming in and deciding on his own what they
I,
think is the best idea. They're in communication.
mhm.
They have radios. The pilot's on board. So, but it is interesting, right? Because they tried to get this ship ready in time. It wasn't. I'm assuming they were talking to the other ship as it was coming in. Maybe they slowed their speed to try to get it ready, and it just couldn't happen. That's educated conjecture on my part, because I really wasn't watching that closely when this
Sure.
happened. I was, woke up, I pulled up the camera. I'm talking to some of the other people in the YouTube chat on the camera, and they're like, "Oh, something about the Taurus." I think that was the name of this one.
I think it's
Um,
you had the Titan.
oh, is it Titan?
Hmm.
No, it's Taurus.
Oh, it is a Taurus. Okay.
Um, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I pulled up marine traffic. I was like, whoa, what is that thing doing there? I mean, that never happens.
I wonder why it's there and not in Anchorage.
That is a really good question. I wonder if the anchorages are deep enough.
It's possible, or you got two other green markers right there in your image. So I wonder if it was full. I mean, I don't know what this how much space you need between ships
Right.
and the anchorage to park it, but
Right.
I wonder if the depth was more the issue. That would make sense to me.
Yeah, and then if you and I don't have this ready to go, but so when they bring the ships out, so you can see my little marker here on this one. When they bring them out, if they come out the same way they come in. See this? This is a ACL
Yep.
Conroe, like on satellite here from who knows how. So this is the path that the ships come in, or the container ships, right? And then they come down, and then they bring them alongside the wall here. So a lot of times they're still too deep to get out of here, to go out via the Seagirt Loop, which continues around.
Circles around.
Okay,
They've got to
which
back
is
it
how the
out.
dolly left that day. But sometimes they're still too deep. They can't get around the loop. So they pull them off the wall and they back them into here, spin them, whatever this is, 120, 150 degrees. So they're bow out, and then bring them straight out to the main channel. So this is dredged out. This whole area is dredged out so that they can make this turn to
Turning
get the
basin.
ship back out of here.
Yeah. That's
Right, and then they just put it against the wall.
that's what they did in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big long river, and at the end of the river, they made a big turning basin so that those ships that are that far inland can just go just a little bit further and spin around and drive straight out instead of trying to turn around right in the middle of the channel.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm a map person, so now I've got to pull up my NOAA charts and go find that, because I would like to see that. That's interesting. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe, there was something that they needed to do landside, right? Because now you're talking about, now you've got to get the line handlers over to Dundalk to tie this thing up. They're not gonna. And if you look closely here,
You
can see the
line handlers
tugboats.
Dundalk couldn't do that.
Well, I don't have enough knowledge. Are they separate,
I have no clue.
or do they? Because the line handlers are a separate group of people. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
I thought so, and I was just assuming
I don't know if there's a crew that handles both terminals, or if they got separate crews for that.
All right. If you're a line handler, or if you're, as a matter of fact, okay, this was cool. I was chatting with one of the tugboat captains while I was trying to talk about what's happening here. And he said, "Oh, I watch the podcast. Sometimes I have it on, and I'm watching it or I'm listening." He said, "I find it interesting," and I'm like, "Okay, okay." My podcast life is complete. One industry person that runs a tugboat is listening to the podcast and thinks it says, he's like, "I learned stuff." I'm like, "Okay,
all right, we're all right."
We're a success now, even though we only got 80 views last week on YouTube. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So if you know the answer to this, is there one gang or one group of line handlers and they go to all the state terminals, like even on both sides of the harbor? There's another question. Because there are state terminals over in Fairfield also, right?
Correct.
So, but now whatever, they're professionals, but now you're tying up this behemoth in a place you're not used to tying it up.
Correct. Yes.
Hey, can you guys go over to Dundalk Marine Terminal and grab the Taurus? What? We're doing what?
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I was saying, you can see the 3 tugboats here are kind of waiting. So
waiting for them, yeah.
Right. So they're not bringing a ship over. And obviously it was going to be there long enough that they're not just keeping 2 tugs against it, at like quarter idle speed to hold it against the wall. They're going to tie it off. And so, but it was soon enough that they said, well, let's keep the tugs over here for when it leaves, which is all interesting, I think.
Okay. That is quite interesting.
Yeah.
All right, you got some updates on the sugar shed.
Right. So they're still working on it, and we were able to get some photos. Alicia sent me these photos.
Okay.
So this is really cool. So let's zoom in here a little bit. So I guess this is what you would. Oh, so here's the smaller, like a dormer. I didn't even notice that before. Right? So this green and silver, this is the big new sugar shed. Okay. And then do you remember we had some photos earlier that you could kind of see these piping ducting sections?
Yeah.
And remember you could actually see the catwalk inside, and we were talking about how big a diameter this must be. Like,
exactly,
if you've got a catwalk, so there's a conveyor that runs down. Was it the center, or
it was like the lower center, because it needed to have enough space for the product to go through also.
Right. And then there was a catwalk off to the side, and you're like, oh my God, how big are these tubes? If you've got a catwalk here, there's a round section and the catwalk is here. So you're walking on the side of the tube and you need 6 feet. How big are these monsters?
Look at to compare in the picture. Look at the orange lifeboat on the ship and compare it to the size of the conveyor. Yeah, you're putting what a dozen people in that lifeboat approximately. And so you can, if you compare the size of that to the tube, it's pretty large.
Right. So you can see the routing here as it would go up and then feed into the sugar shed. And I don't remember this big box being here. It's like they modded and added that. I don't remember seeing that in our earlier photos of the sugar shed.
Sure. But it may be housing components related to the conveyor system, or
and I think what Peter O'Malley said is that they're actually going to be able to sort the sugar as it comes in.
Oh, cool. All right.
So into like different granule sizes, I think was the concept.
Hmm.
Uh, and I guess that's all going to be, mechanisms up in the roof there, hanging from the apex of the roof somehow.
That's interesting because they didn't have any type of sorting. It was,
Right. Well, the
I,
sorting was done internal,
correct. But
but I guess they, hey, maybe if we can add if now I just came up with this. If we can do the sorting in the sugar shed, then we've got more room in the factory. Then maybe we can take that sorting stuff out of the factory and have more room. I don't.
you're exactly correct. And so, without getting too in depth with some, supply chain theoretics here, and if you really want to go and learn about this, go look at the theory of constraints that Goldratt is the author of the book, and it's he looks at assembly line manufacturing and how do we go and that's it. That's what I was. I but
Sorry.
I prefaced with that.
If
I
you
said
really want to learn,
you really want to learn it,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
but in layman's terms,
Mhm.
this is an exact example of how you can look at a particular manufacturing process
Mhm.
and possibly do change the timing or the way that the manufacturing process works to make to reduce your costs. And I
Mhm.
would imagine that yes, there's an expense related to this. Yes, I
Mm.
know that it was because of a fire, and so you're able to take
Yeah.
advantage of a bad situation and possibly look
Right.
at, hey, look, if we spend a little bit more on the facility,
Yeah.
it will
Design
help.
whatever another 5 or 10%. Wow,
Absolutely
this will really help us be more efficient on the front end.
correct. Yeah, so
Mhm.
so that's not far fetched.
Okay. Cool. So
Sorry,
some
I didn't mean
stuff
to
that
get.
Mike came up off the top of his head actually is
Oh
relevant.
no, it's pretty legit. Sorry, I bored you with the.
No, it's totally cool.
Oh,
Yeah, here's another shot. Oh, and look at the size of this crane working this thing.
that is impressive for it to be up
Wow.
that high to be able to get to what they need.
And then don't they? Wow, where did they? So, did you see that article? There was a thing a while back. There was a crane that fell in New York City,
Yes.
right? And if this kind of looks like the same design. Now, I'm not a crane expert, but it kind of looks like the same sort of premise. And then, so when it would get windy, they would take the crane and and actually lay it down in the street, and then they could pick it back up and go back to work the next day,
Mm-hmm.
which leads me to, wow, where's there enough real estate over there to lay this thing down to build it, if that's how they had to build it,
Yeah.
right? Because it doesn't come in some hundreds of feet long. It comes in pieces and they put it together, or it folds up or something. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's another one, another shot. Yeah, so these are really cool. And I really appreciate people keeping us up to date with these. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. That's how we.
what's going on at Domino Sugar Shed? They only build one of these when they need to. So for us to be able to have the coverage here,
Sure.
to show folks what's going on, because not everybody's on a boat in the winter in the harbor to be able to get these kind of
Right.
photos. So,
And unfortunately, we don't. You and I don't have the ability to just go out every day and just randomly take pictures and see what's cool and fun as much as we would like to.
right. Well, I probably have had the capability, but
It's still a lot.
I'm about to lose it.
Yep.
All
All
right.
right. I think you also have some pictures of recent snowstorm stuff here at the port. You got some updated pics?
Right. And so we were just talking about
Yep.
that, and that's probably what affected the truck transaction numbers on a Wednesday, last Wednesday. Isn't it funny? You get so busy with life. And, what day did it snow last week?
Exactly. Yeah. I was doing the same thing. Yeah.
Jeez, that's ridiculous. But anyway, so, you know, I like to kind of highlight, even on the group or anywhere, how things work, what makes things work, or the fact that, shipping doesn't stop. It's raining, it's 100 degrees, 30 and 40-mile-an-hour winds,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff keeps moving. Snow. And so I thought that was a cool. That almost looks like a stage shot. I'm not.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
It's cool though. I love it. This is the ARC Endeavor. So remember we talked about this before. ARC is owned by Wallenius Wilhelmsen, and then every once in a while they'll roll Wallenius Wilhelmsen ship over to ARC. Rename it, put a new, and put an American flag on it, give it an American crew. Because that's required for this company because they do military
Correct.
handling.
And the military handling could be actual military goods, or it could be personnel goods.
Right,
Like
because as I understand it, different groups I'm not a military guy, I'm going to get this wrong. Different divisions or segments, sections. Yell at me, Mike, at BaltimoreShipwatchers.com because I don't know what I'm talking about. But, the different segments that deploy overseas.
Correct.
And then supposedly sometimes they take their own equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a section is trading out with another section, supposedly some of that equipment, the new equipment goes over, the old equipment comes back, not to mention all the people in that division and their cars and all the stuff that, they've been over there for whatever, 3 years, boxes and boxes,
clothes, furniture, all
toys
that
for the kids, all that stuff, food, whatever, so, so it's more than just tanks and helicopters that wind up going in these ships. It can be, things that, for the people that work there that are going back and forth.
Sure. Can you zoom in just a little bit? Can you go on the deck there? What? Excuse me. What's is that a forklift coming off of the?
Yeah, maybe he's putting pads down. See, he's got something on the forks here.
I guess the point I'm getting at is, hey, it's snowing. They're still operating.
Yeah. And now you're talking about a metal ramp. So I don't know if you've seen the pictures. Well, you've been down there. They put some kind of material down, and I don't know if it's kind of a rubber or plastic, or if I don't think it's wood. But they put some kind of material down, these sheets, and I guess it helps with gripping, or
Sure.
I really don't know what the exact purpose of it is. I think I've got another photo. Yeah. This is just not necessarily an action shot here, but, at Dundalk Marine Terminal, one of the K-line ro-ros. Mm-hmm.
So they really do. It's when they have weather events, they really have to keep on top of everything in order to keep business flowing through the terminal.
Right.
So it's pretty important.
Right. And, this is what I was starting to say earlier, I think we lose sight, we forget, right, that all this stuff is going on, and now it's snowing, and it's not just you outside with your little shovel doing your sidewalk.
Correct.
Or your driveway. There's a whole giant terminal. We should have the area numbers.
Yes.
Right? These two giant terminals, and how do you clear those for snow so that they can move the containers around? And now, admittedly, some of the stuff here at Dundalk Marine Terminal, as you can see, is is big enough to move around on its own
Sure. Yeah.
in probably a foot of snow.
Correct. Yeah.
But not everything is, and so they want to be able to keep stuff moving as best as they can.
And the same effort that you have to go to clean off your car before you pull it out of the driveway, that same effort has to be put onto every car that's coming through there. So, that's extra effort to have to deal with.
That's interesting. If you're shipping something out and it's got to go that day and it's got 4 inches of snow on it, I mean, do they have like giant blowers that they can drive it under that just gets rid of the snow? Do they have to get rid of the snow? Do they just drive it on and as they're see? More logistics stuff that I don't understand what the answers are. So if you work for what is it, Cirrus? Right? Series or what, however I should know how to pronounce that. And you're a driver, Mike at BaltimoreShipwatchers.com. Tell us how you clean the cars. I don't, is somebody cleaning off these cars, or you just drive them on there and interest? But I would think that would be a mess because now you're on a flat steel. Right now, imagine the inside is just the steel that they park on is just flat and it's painted.
Correct.
So I think it's going to get slippery really fast. And so now you got these guys bent down and you're lashing these cars, you're lashing the tires to the steel floor so that these cars don't move anywhere in shipment. Yeah, how does that work? I
wonder if the ships are climate controlled enough to be able to keep the thing above freezing so that the stuff, any melt off.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking about them being wet.
Yeah.
But that's another. See? Tons to learn.
Yep.
We're out here trying to teach people and let people know about the port. And now we have, how many questions do we have now? How do line handlers work? Are there line handlers for different terminals? Are there line handlers for different sections of the port on different sides of the river? And what do you do when you got to drive a bunch of equipment onto a ship and it's covered in snow?
I wonder if there's somebody who can come on and help answer those questions.
Maybe you might know somebody?
I might know somebody.
That would be cool.
Let's see if we can't do that.
Yeah. All
right.
Anything else in photos?
Yeah, you've got there was some really cool new news this week about electric rail cars at the port.
Yeah. Look at this guy. You want to read that for me, please?
Yeah, so this is the first ever electric rail car mover. It's now at the Port of Baltimore. There was a press release that was sent out about it this week. And one of the Mid-Atlantic Terminal general managers for Wallenius Wilhelmsen, and so that's one of the private terminal operators at Dundalk Marine Terminal. And so the terminal general manager, Matt Stahl, which I know Matt, he was one of my former students.
Cool.
So he was in the article. He was quoted that at this terminal, this particular asset will be used to help with intermodal cargo exchange. And so the Mid-Atlantic Terminal is the one who's going to be operating the Zephyr. He says that we can do it with our own asset without any assistance, so they own this outright. And Wallenius Wilhelmsen has been using the Zephyr to move rail cars loaded within the heavy lift, farm, and construction equipment and military cargo within the Dundalk Marine Terminal, and claims it will remove over 180 tons of harmful carbon emissions per year. So Dundalk Terminal has rail lines all throughout the terminal footprint, the property. In handling ro-ros, so to kind of give the premise here, ro-ro operations, that's roll on, roll off. So that's anything that has wheels that can be rolled on or off of
I
a
appreciate you
vessel.
explaining that because we've been you've been in transportation for a long time. I've been doing this ship watching thing for like 7 years, and still there's new people that might join the Facebook group. And what does
Oh,
Roro mean? So
yeah, and
there's
that
always new people. So I appreciate you explaining that.
well, when in the summer when we have our teachers come through and go through their industry boot camp training,
Mm-hmm.
I make a point to go and
All
say
right.
each time there is a new term, and here's all the terms and definitions that you're going to need from the industry perspective. And ultimately, somebody goes, "Well, Roro, that's a cute little word," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's they have other terms for vessels like the conroe or the co-row, the
Mm-hmm.
container roll on roll off."
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I want to make sure that everybody understands what that is.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
with the roll on roll off products,
Mm-hmm.
cars, trucks, farm equipment, um, even vehicles like rail cars,
Mm-hmm.
they get put on and off the ships. Those products that are too big to be put in containers
Mm.
or it doesn't make sense to be put into a bulk ship. You can
Right.
put the equipment on what's called a moffy, which is a flatbed with wheels, and strap it
Mm-hmm.
down, and then you can turn anything into Roro products.
Right.
Now,
Right.
specific with what's happening here,
Like maybe like a transformer, let's just say.
correct? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
correct. Yeah, that's a good
It
example.
doesn't
So,
have to have wheels.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. So with this electric rail car,
Mm-hmm.
you have you have these products coming in and out of Dundalk Terminal either via truck or rail. And so cars that are manufactured for export, well, they'll load them on, if they happen to be out on the West Coast, they'll put them on a rail car and, have a long, unit train full of cars or farm equipment or what have you brought into the port.
Mm-hmm.
CSX will, or Norfolk Southern will have, and I think in this particular, I think this is a CSX.
That
Could,
flatbed.
I could be wrong on that, but
Mm-hmm.
in this case, the both Class One railroads are bringing products in or taking products out, and there's some exchange around the terminal. But in trying to load these rail cars with the
Mm-hmm.
products or
Mm-hmm.
to take them off ready for export,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be able to move them around on the terminal grounds.
Right.
So your options are, let's get a diesel locomotive in here and do all of this, or we can use the electric one. Well, this thing's
Mm-hmm.
only staying on the terminal, only moving around. It's much easier to deal with the charging
Mm-hmm.
than it is for your your longer distance. So this is a really great solution that's been put in place to help with not only the emissions related things, but it's now easier to go handle those moves out on the terminal without having to engage other equipment.
Right. And then Mike's how does this work brain? It would be fascinating to see what does the charging look like, you
Yes,
know? How much obviously they've got, crane power and some big power on site. So it's not like they had to dig a trench a half mile long to get to the charging station, wherever that is. I assume it's at the end of a rail, at the head end of a rail line on the
sure.
property somewhere, right? But,
I know that I know that
what
there's been
what does
some
that look like?
yeah. I know that there have been some mentions in press releases recently about the terminals receiving funding for electrification upgrades.
Mhm.
Or they've already started with some of that, especially with the double stack rail connectivity. They had over on Seagert, they had to go and do some improvements, and part of that was the electrification components of that. So that they are doing some quite a bit of infrastructure upgrades related to electrification.
Mhm.
Be curious to see what the full summary of everything is.
Right, right.
All right, I think that's all the pictures that you had
Okay,
there.
cool.
Um, we got a couple of other
Oh.
I guess announcements or news nuggets for the port this week. One of them is actually, I, I'm not going to want to go to other ports to talk about them, but
Right.
the Port of Brunswick has got some news that relates to us.
Yeah. One of the big things, one of our calling cards here at the Port of Baltimore is that we are the largest automotive importer in the United States 13 years running, right? And then you and I have
Correct.
even talked about it. We need to dig up this article where they was sometime last year. Was it 23? Maybe it was in 23. They hired somebody to like expand and promote the automotive or ro business here at the port, and I was just so impressed with that. Okay, here we are, 12, 13 years running. You're the big guy on the block that everybody wants to knock off, and you're hiring somebody to make it better and stronger and bring in more business. That I just thought that was really cool that they're working hard to keep that.
Sure.
But then we had a tragic accident. The Key Bridge came down, the port shut down. And so now we have one of our neighbors is so Brunswick, now the largest U.S. automobile port, surpassing Baltimore. Port of Brunswick rode double-digit growth to become the top U.S. seaport for automobiles last year. Georgia officials said Wednesday, surpassing the Port of Baltimore after it shut down for weeks following the deadly bridge collapse. Brunswick's port moved 841,000 cars and trucks across its docks in 2024, increasing more than 13% of the previous year. The Port of Baltimore led the U.S. in automobile imports and exports for more than a decade, but its total dropped 11% last year to fewer than 750,000 autos, said Richard Scher, spokesman for the Maryland Port Administration. In 23, the Port of Baltimore handled a record 847,000 autos. So I just want to highlight the numbers here. So Brunswick is claiming they're number one at 841
This year.
this year. Two, wait a minute, 2 years, 23, Baltimore did 847. So if you just follow the growth curve, there's no way Brunswick could be making this claim if the bridge didn't come down.
Yeah, they can make this claim because we lost 100,000 transactions this year
Right.
because of the bridge. That's all it was.
Right.
No, it wasn't all it was. I will let me backtrack on that. Port of Brunswick has been doing a significant amount of investment in their terminal operations,
a lot,
to be able to compete with us.
Yes.
And so if you think
like
about,
I said, they want to knock the king off the off the throne.
Now, if you look at who they are and where they're at within the U.S. and where the general population is, and population.
And there's a lot of manufacturing down there, right? BMW, and there's a lot of car. Who just announced that they were going in there? Is it Isuzu? No, not Isuzu.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, somebody I just read this week is opening up a new factory down there in that area.
Sure.
I'm not.
Also, if you look at the current U.S. economy and how the economy is starting to be pushed, and more rhetoric around manufacturing coming back to the U.S., we're going to have to build up infrastructure in our ports to be able to handle those exports and what have you. So I understand why the investment was made down in Georgia for this. And I understand why they are trying to promote and promote their operations and things. But I think that let's see what the metrics are for 25 between the two ports, and let's see what happens.
You know what I was thinking? We've been making this claim for over a decade now, and then so I was just curious what will the official wording be from the port,
right,
next year?
Yeah,
America's automotive leading importer and exporter for the last 13 out of 14 years.
Yeah, it's the one blip of
Right. No, I was just wondering, how they're going to word it, because it'll be something like that, I would guess. And then this was I love when the port, just kind of sees, an opportunity, and they're like, hey, Baltimore is the sweetest port in the U.S. In 2024, Port of Baltimore handled more than 8,300 tons of chocolate. Worth nearly $64 million. When you think about Valentine's Day, or just beside, there's how much money is there in chocolate? 8,300 tons.
Well, it's not like the chocolate grows on the chocolate tree out back of Walmart. They go out and pick it and put it in a box.
Come from chocolate cows like the chocolate milk does?
Exactly. Yeah, that's not that's not how it all works. So yeah, you've got to be able to source the products and grow the products and manufacture them. And with Hershey, Pennsylvania so close to us, of course they're going to be using us in order to, well, I won't say of course, but
yeah,
they'll be using us to move those chocolate related products through. And of course there's the sugar related to it, so we got the Domino Sugar pumping the sugar up there with the chocolate. So
right, and those 2,000-pound burlap sacks that they ship out of there. Right, those are interesting to walk by and see that being done. So when you bite into that chocolate or light that candle tonight, remember where it might have come from. More than 1,200 tons of candles valued at $3.6 million. Wow.
It's a lot of candles. It's a lot of wax.
Yeah. All right. And you have some updates. So we were talking about the Howard Street Tunnel. And
so when I drive through the tunnel every day, and I look, I look around, I'm,
sure,
sad to see the remaining bridge structure still up, but I look at all of the stuff. I look at the ships, what ships are in. And I came out last week, I came out of the tunnel, out of the harbor tunnel, headed south, and I looked over at Amports and I see a bunch of containers out there.
Like, what?
And I go, do what? What is?
Am I on the wrong side? Did I make a U-turn in the harbor tunnel somehow?
Did I get turned around in the tunnel and come back out the other end? And I'm like, where are all the Mercedes? I don't understand.
Yeah, what's going on?
And so I, got home. I think I took a picture, sent it to you. And,
right.
I pulled off on the side of the road, took that picture, and it was like, hey, this doesn't look, what's wrong with this picture? But there's actually something going on here. So under a new agreement with CSX and Amports, there is an agreement between the two to manage to provide handling services for containers at the Atlantic Terminal. And so what we're talking about here is transshipments of containers. This particular agreement marks the third rail partnership that Amports has established with a major rail company. So they're familiar with doing these types of operations. The Atlantic Terminal will enable seamless service along the 95 corridor between Florida and Baltimore. And this partnership is a shared vision of Amports and CSX to innovate and optimize supply chain solutions that benefit customers and communities alike. And so this is also to ensure the seamless movement of cargo through all of the facilities there during the Howard Street Tunnel construction project. And so I'm wondering if this is more of a temporary than a permanent operation.
I would think so. I would assume so. But I've also been trying, I was a railroad hobbyist before I was a ship hobbyist. So that's what helps me know some things about the port, like coal and which which class 1 railroad services, which terminals, and how many coal cars there are on each train, and
Sure.
um, uh, but so I've been talking to some of those folks, and I'm trying to understand what is going on here, and I still don't think I have a firm understanding. Like,
So
why are they doing it? Oh, because the tunnel's closed.
correct.
Okay,
So,
but then
yeah,
so they're
they
trucking them to the other side in a small
so
amount? I
so
don't.
looking at who the containers are, and just some general understanding of what's happening. You have
Mhm.
some of the containers are being double stacked.
Right.
Some of the containers are being loaded onto the rail line as container on a flat car, which
Mhm.
means that you've got a special flat car that the container fits in.
Right.
And then you also have some rail cars that support trailer on a flat car, and they've
Right.
loaded some. I've seen
Old
some of
school.
those. Yeah, so that's you got the chassis and the container still connected together, and they can load those onto the
What is
rail
his
line.
name? Malcolm.
Malcolm McLean, yeah. Well,
Malcolm
but
McLean. Thank you.
Malcolm McLean was his concepts focused on the ship to shore movements and the crane operations.
Yes.
This is a byproduct of that.
Right.
Um, so what they're trying to do is I'm noticing that these trucks they're not coming from the water side of the terminal. There are no cranes at Fairfield. There's still ro-ro ships coming in, so there's not container operations coming in. These are containers that are coming
Right.
in from land, from the
Just
local.
train to truck or truck to train. Right.
Correct,
That's
correct.
okay. I
And
got
so
that part.
and so trucks are coming in delivering these containers from the local market, and then they hook up with yard jockeys, and the yard jockeys move the containers to the positions where they need to be loaded. And then they have these big four-wheel cranes that kind of look like huge forklifts with a crane
Mm-hmm.
bucket on the front, and they pick
Mm-hmm.
them up and load them onto the rail, the rail cars, and lock them out, and then go on. And this is also the same rail line that they use to load the Ro-Ro um, rail
Oh,
cars.
okay.
So they're using their terminal for multiple purposes here.
Auto
Um,
racks, as they like to call them
correct,
in the
correct. That is
industry.
correct. But that's what's happening out here at Fairfield. So
Hmm.
whether this is, to me, it sounds like that this is more of a temporary operation to help support the what's going on with double stack in the Howard Street Tunnel project.
Mm-hmm.
But I also noticed that there's some fewer cars out there during that time frame. So I wonder if this also helps supplement their business, and with whatever movements may be happening with a rebound from the Key Bridge. We had a lot of Key Bridge related news that came out last week with the designs that came out, and I mentioned something in that episode about the naming of the new bridge, and so I got
Mm-hmm.
some more information on that. I had mentioned in last episode that a bill that was sponsored by Johnny Ray Solling that would name the new bridge the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually two bills in with the state right this minute. So and one
Right,
with
and
the
this is
House, one with
typical of how things work. Just like
correct
at the federal level, each side needs to
submit
start
a
their own. Yes.
correct. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
each side of the House is going to go and submit their laws.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go through a committee. They're then going to swap sides and look at the same bill on the other sides and make their markups, and then come back and vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is interesting about this
Mm-hmm.
is that the same bill has been introduced both on the House and the Senate within the state. Okay, and
Oh.
so Senator Solling put in a bill, State Bill 119,
Mm-hmm.
and on the House side, House Bill 630. I'm sorry, House Bill 623
Mm-hmm.
was announced by Delegate Robert Long in District 6. And
Mm-hmm.
the language for both states that the name for the bridge would be the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what I found interesting, I went and actually read both of the bills.
Wow.
And right at the end, I think it's section 3, there is a clause, and the
Okay.
clause states that, or the wording of the clause states that the bill has a contingency clause,
Okay.
that the bridge has to be built and completed first for the name to be enacted. So they're going
This is my doggy head tilt face.
what? Yeah, that's what was that? I don't know why. I mean,
Yeah, that
I'm almost kind of thinking, duh, like
right.
you can't name the bridge until you build it, or you can't use the bridge until you build it. I don't know if that's just a formality.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that if they're putting it in this year's bills, that it's, hey, let's go ahead and get this thing done so that we don't have to worry about people. We'll call it this, we'll call it that. Well, no, we've already got it 3 years in advance that we're going to call it this once it's done, but we got to put the clause in place in order to go and justify that, because it's going to get confusing. Are we naming the existing old structure? Okay, let's put the clause in to make sure that somebody doesn't say, well, what if we do this? I think that's why it falls in like that.
Okay, so this is our third question from the podcast that we would like to have answered. What's with the clause?
What's with the clause?
You know, what's the real meaning behind it? That would be an interesting answer. Because on the surface, you know, your gut reaction is, what? That seems
okay,
not necessary.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway. Are we ready to talk about upcoming events?
Yeah, so we've got some. So next Saturday, the nuclear ship Savannah has got a public site visit opportunity. You don't just show up on your own; you have to register to attend.
And here's why. Let me illustrate why. Because there are a group of volunteers that help you tour the ship, a group of docents that have been trained. They're certified because this is a federal property, right? The government still owns this ship.
The Maritime Administration still owns the ship. That is correct.
Thank you. And they have over 300 people registered for this event. Right?
That's
it's
awesome.
Like Maritime Day.
Okay.
Right. What are the figures for Maritime Day? They're maybe like what, 500 or 600, maybe.
Yeah, it gets up there. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, this is probably the biggest one that they've had since Maritime Day last year. So I mean, you got to know how many people are coming so that you can accommodate them and plan accordingly. So yes, please don't forget to register if you plan on attending.
Yeah, you can go to www.ns-savannah.com, scroll all the way at the bottom, and there is just a single link for the open house reservation. So click on that, and then that should get you your spot to be able to tour the ship.
Right.
So Saturday, February 22nd, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Right, and just another note that. Now, they've already got 300 people registered, but I just wanted to say, if you've never seen this ship, if you've thought about going to see this ship, and if you can clear your schedule to go down and see it, just go do it, because a year from now, it might not even be here. Right?
Correct.
So you don't, and it's just a ship, but you know, people are very passionate about certain things, and so if you're really interested in going and seeing this ship, I would advise you to do it. And it's incredible. It's like a time machine inside that thing, isn't it, Kipp? I mean,
yes.
It's it's like a cross between the 60s and the Jetsons. It's like a cross between like the future and the past. It is kind of wild to walk through there.
Much of the decor is the same as it when the ship was operating. Now there are some modern conveniences that have been put in like there are some areas that have climate control now.
Right.
for the workers that were trying, involved in the decommissioning. But like as soon as you walk in, and you into the lobby area of the ship, you're immediately transformed back into the 60s when this was operating. So.
Yeah, it's great to see that. What else do we have?
Also, March the 27th, this is a Thursday, the Baltimore Port Alliance is hosting their annual bull and oyster roast down at the cruise terminal. This benefits the Baltimore Port Alliance's operations and all their committees with the with the education outreach, the environmental committees, and the legal, the legislative committees to go do the things that they do to help promote the port.
So I didn't realize that Baltimore Port Alliance was active in. I didn't know that they were the people or some of the people who do that type of work as far as legislative and how it works with the port.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Port Alliance is all the public and private port terminal entities within the region. The group works together to promote all of the things that you would need as a collective voice. Like the environmental committee is focused on the environmental related issues, and I know Rupert Denny has gotten up at the meetings to explain some of the projects that they've done with going out in the community. Helping with some of the community gardens and donations of surplus items,
right,
and things like that. So those have some costs. So now a lot of that is donated from the member companies. But there is a cost associated with that, and then even from the legal or the legislative aspects, there are certain things that the group engages with the state legislature on. Laws related to the Port of Baltimore, and so it's important for them to be working together, and there's costs associated with that. So, yeah, it definitely is. There are activities that need to be taken care of, and this is the one fundraiser that helps with all of those activities. $75 per person. If you want a table of 7, you can get everybody to get your table of 10. I apologize.
Right.
For 700 is that. It's a great time. You get to see many of the people who are in and involved with the industry. And you get some decent food and go hang out at the cruise terminal. So
nice.
Also, looking forward a little bit, and we'll start mentioning this. So on Sunday, May the 18th, so everybody go mark your calendars now. Sunday, May the 18th, out at Pier 13 in Canton is the annual National Maritime Day commemoration out at the nuclear ship Savannah. We don't have all the details yet, but in years past, it's been an 11 to 3 time frame. You can come out and visit both the nuclear ship Savannah and the John Brown Liberty ship. There is a commemoration ceremony, usually at 11:30, with it ending right at noon, and cannon firing salutes. So that put this as a placeholder on your calendar. Mike and I are planning on being there. So come by and stop by, and we'll have a booth out there. And
we'll be set up right in front of the John Brown.
So come by and say hello, and then participate in the activities, and then you get some cool tours, and you get to see some really neat things.
Yeah, man.
So as those details come out, we will announce that here on the podcast. I expect that there to be a live broadcast of the commemoration ceremony at 11:30 on the Shipwatchers platform this year. Cool. So we're going to be broadcasting the commemoration ceremony also. So if you can't make it, at least join us online so that you can see everything that's going on.
Sounds good.
All right, in our history segment, I think you have a picture that you can help me out with this one. Is that correct?
Yeah. Go ahead and get started.
So we're going to go back to 2013. in February, and there was a press release on Valentine's Day of 2013 announcing the Newport cranes to begin operations at Seagirt Terminal. So there's thank you. This was the one that I was looking for. I couldn't find it. So this is the first set of 4 post Panamax cranes that were delivered. This was back in 2013. They have this special ship here that's quite unique. To be able to carry these, the concern was the ability for the overhead clearance to make it through the both bridges at the time. So both the old Key Bridge and underneath the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. They had to modify this in order to be able to get it low enough to be able to get underneath.
Right,
And then they have these.
Because this part, right, where this machine house or whatever,
yes,
and it all goes up on top here.
Correct.
So that's the fascinating part. How the heck do you get these off the ship? And then how do you raise this section up to the top here and bolt that in?
So they have to get it off of the ship. They have temporary rail lines that they sit on the ship like that, and they hook temporary rail lines from the ship to the shore to roll the crane off and lock it into the rail line, the permanent rail line on the terminal, and then they bring a crane in to go and lift the housing on top of it.
Yeah, look at that! Wow, that's cool.
So these 4 cranes, they showed up at Seagirt Terminal, February 2013 is when they started operation. So there's our history nugget.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay, so they may have arrived before that. Because remember this last set, oh my gosh, they showed up in September. They didn't start using them until March.
Right.
Right.
And I think that it was, I think it was several months for them to put everything together and get them operation. That is correct. Look at that shot. That's the one I was hoping to come across. Yeah.
Yeah, with the Coast Guard ship trailing. Look at that.
Yeah. How about that? All right. Well, that's our history nugget for the week.
Look at that one. Look at that shot.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? Cool, huh?
Impressive.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the history. That is the history nugget for this episode.
Yep. So just to tell you a little bit about who we are Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. Been around for 7 years. Started off as a Facebook group. We're approaching 16,000 members here in another 2 podcasts, maybe. We're also on Twix, Insta, Reddit, Threads. We're all over the place on social media. We have a website, www.baltimoreshipwatchers.com, that has a lot of information about the port maps, ship schedules. We have some swag for sale. We've got these T-shirts with this logo. Let me see. This logo on the back of the shirt. Plus coffee cups, hats, some other stuff. And then the original camera that filmed the bridge accident, you can go watch that live 24/7 and kind of watch what's happening at the port. And that's where the really detailed conversations kind of go on about what is happening, because you can go to marine traffic and look at where the ships are, where they're coming from, where they're going, but to actually see the movement and what is happening on camera live is a completely different thing. You don't realize how much you're assuming by looking at little dots on the map until you're watching it live. And then of course, you wind up having more questions. But it's really cool feature to be able to watch it live.
I know that we're promoting the YouTube version of this, but you can also listen to this recording via Spotify or Apple Podcasts in the audio version.
Sounds good. I think we're done for today, huh?
All right. Well, big plans for the weekend?
I'm just preparing for my new job. Okay. So I have a new job that I start on Tuesday. So
good. Excellent. Yeah. Good luck with all of that.
Yeah. So I'm excited. And I've got documents and I'm highlighting and studying and editing just to kind of prepare. I don't want to just go in and go, what do I do now?
Understood.
I want
we have kid weekend, so we have lots of kid things to do. So we will be talking about fishing and all the alike. So we have lots of fun kid things to talk about. So
cool, man. Cool.
All right. Well, let's send us off. 3, 2, 1. Happy Shipwatching.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching and listening. Have a great week.